Welcome everybody to the first podcast that we're doing, and this is called Listen. I think that's the best place to start. Why it's called Listen.
It'll probably become apparent.
I think it will.
It's for the people. Dan, obviously, you alluded to it the last time we spoke. You said I've got a habit of, telling people to listen, and I have.
You have. Well, when we were discussing it, because we put it out on Twitter that we were going to start doing a show, we got a load of good responses. People were interested, and then we put it out that we were interested in people's feedback for a name. So we got some good ones. I quite like Reffing Reptiles or Refs and Reptiles, because you're the guy that refs the reptiles.
We've got some not so good ones.
We got some not so good ones.
Some horrendous ones.
But when we were discussing it on the call, and I said to you, well, this is a good option or this is a good option. What was the first thing you said? Listen. It's up to you. Listen. I said, there you go. Made my mind up. It's listen.
There you go. Listen, before I go any further, just say, the surroundings for this. I'm glad I did listen to you. And we came over here because the surroundings for this is just get a natural feel straight away.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much they'll see on camera, but look around. The place is incredible.
Yeah.
There's a good energy in the place.
Yeah. So we've done a couple of podcasts before. Thank you very much, by the way. I love the place. We've done a couple of podcasts before, and we put them on Fight Disciples Network, and people loved them. We got loads of good feedback, so it was requested we do some more. So it puts you in an awkward position. That's the first place I want to talk about, because obviously you're a referee. We see you at most of the big events, refereeing most of the big fights. But at the same time, I'm going to be trying to pick your brain because I have so many questions out of these events. Like the most recent event, obviously, is the Dillashaw Cejudo one, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But what's your stance when it comes to talking about fights?
Yeah, look, because when I put it out when we put it out on social media that we were going to do this, and like I said, the uptake was unbelievable. I had no idea that so many people were interested in listening to what I wanted to say, we wanted to say, I'm putting the onus on you. But yeah, as a referee, look, I think what it is that people, it's kind of like, I already do it, because people say as officials in other sports as well, there's this, and I'm not a fan of the notion that officials should be seen and not heard. I understand that. I get that. But it's also to do with the person. Because as an official, if you were coming onto a broadcast, a podcast, whatever it may be, and you're putting yourself in a compromising position, and by that I mean generally you're talking about something you may do or may have done, or may be about to do. As a referee, you're never going to see me sit down and talk about a fight I'm about to ref if I knew, because that's just common sense tells you it's not the thing to do, And by the same token, obviously, if I'm going to break down decisions or fights, I'm far more comfortable doing it with my own, because there's plenty of high-profile examples for people to tie into. Where I have gone into referees in the past, naming no names, but I've saw some officials, people that, not so well-known officials, without sounding like a dickhead, like...
What a dick.
Like a dickhead. Yeah, without listening, and they're breaking down fights, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? First of all, you're not in a position to break down those fights. And second of all, if you're going to talk about, at least be informed, it's a difficult position for me, But like I said, I'm my own man, and I'm also, like, you've got the luxury of knowing me for a very long time. And I know you trust me and you know my integrity, and so does a lot of other people. I think that where referees, where officials will fall foul of, pardon the pun, is that it's expected of us, and I don't know why it is. I don't know why it is. I kind of do know, because you don't want to have any subject bias, as small as it is. But again, that factors back to the person. If you as an official are going to talk publicly about a decision or whatever, be informed, be professional, and just don't be a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Don't be stupid with it, you know? And I will try and be accessible. I've tried to do that with social media for the past few years. I do try and give some recourse and conversation back to fans because I think it's important.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't, it's not about pleasing everyone because that's never going to happen. You also
That's never seemed to concern you in the past though anyway. So.
I guess. But what you certainly can't do is you can't inform everyone. Mm-hmm. And the classic was the weekend with you know, what we're here now, we're talking about it was TJ and Henry Cejudo.
Yeah. So
I'm in Dubai. Sorry, go on.
So why did you stop the fights early?
You know, like
what? I mean, I don't. Why did you stop the fights early? I can't believe it. I mean,
I really don't
a referee like you as well, Mark,
I know.
who for some reason at that weekend had lost 4 inches and gained 10 pounds.
Sorry, Kevin.
We're only teasing.
But Dan, the guys will know. It's like I wake up to the fights because I was in Dubai, so obviously with the time.
So you weren't refereeing then? That wasn't.
Funnily enough, no, it
I
wasn't
saw you
me.
tweet. You should have seen his tweet. You got a few, right?
A few, boatloads across. This is what people don't see. What Dan's referring to on Twitter. I woke up on Sunday morning in Dubai. Obviously, the time difference. The fights were just about finishing, around about breakfast time in Dubai. Maybe a little bit after breakfast time, and my phone's like, what's going on? You motherfucker! You scumbag! Why did you stop the fight? I'm like, what are they talking about? You know, and like I say, as far as cussing goes as well, I'll make no excuse for it now. You know, if I'm going to cuss, it's because I'm going to emphasize the point and I'm going to say what people have said to me. And this is what people don't get. And I'm not talking 1 or 2 tweets. I'm talking literally 100, 150 messages, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the people are going, you know, why did you stop the fight? You're this, you're that, various obscenities. And then I was like, and obviously I didn't watch the fights. And I'm like, how could they get me mixed up? And the ref that we're talking about is a guy called Kevin McDonald. Kevin's a Bostiff native. He's a fireman. Good guy.
Yeah.
Very experienced official. Very experienced referee.
Similar haircut.
Right.
Similar haircut.
Yeah, and here's the thing.
Same styling products.
Here's the thing. Well, actually, no, because we've had a good discussion about it. When my hair is wet, it's dark. I have a high cut and a side parting. That's where the fucking similarity ends. Kevin's 5'8". I'm 6'3". I'm 240. I don't know what Kevin is, but he's 5'8", and he messaged me going. He actually sent me a message saying, you know, why did you stop the fucking fights? And I messaged him straight back. I said, Kevin, change your fucking hairstyle. But yeah.
Did he get some shit when the Ngannou Blades fight was stopped?
No, because the thing is, it's like, I've had it in the past when Kevin like I said, he's a very experienced official, but when he's been doing some cards, everyone's like, they're actually going to, who's this Marc Goddard imposter? Because of the haircut. But like I said, all joking aside, that's where the similarity begins and ends. But what I will say is that Kevin is, obviously I saw the fight in question, and I'll let people know out there, the hardcore fans will know Kevin, and obviously I know Kevin, an experienced ref, a very competent, experienced official who's been doing this for a long time on a global level. But yeah, I'm definitely, at least dye your hair or something, Kevin. Just do something, get a crew cut or whatever. But this is what irks me, you know, because when I say to you, and we've talked about like you know, as a referee, how I think, and people like, it pains me that people can't see the difference. But I guess at 6 a.m. or 4 a.m, wherever you are in the world.
After 12 beers.
If you've got 12 beers and you're pissed, he's got dark hair and a party, that's good enough for me. You know, it's Goddard. And they can't hear us talk. Yeah. He's got a thick Boston, I think he's a Boston native. He's got a thick Boston accent. I speak like I speak. But yeah.
There's not a lot of similarities between Boston and Birmingham.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so.
So what about the actual fight, how it played out? I mean, I've watched it. Well, we were watching it earlier. We've got James behind the camera who's videoing for us. In fact, just before we move on, I'm glad that we're videoing this today because people can now see. There are 2 podcasts we've recorded. Now you'll know why when Mark's talking, it starts to sound like this because he moves the microphone and he likes to bang on things as he's talking. No, we're getting all this on camera now so people can see.
You know, the last one we did, I remember there was a particular part in the conversation. I was banging on the table.
On the table. The mics were shaking.
I'm going to apologise in advance now. I can't help it. I'm tactile when I get passionate about something. I'll try not to move the mic. It's big and heavy, so
yeah, well, no, these are the podcast mics. We're going to get some. We'll get lapel mics so you can't avoid
lapel mics. But I will get.
Then you can wave your arms around.
I will. I can't help but get expressive. But sorry, the question.
Yes, the fight. We were watching it earlier, and I mean, well, the first thing, the punch that it looks like it hurts him to me was very similar to the McGregor Poirier.
It was the kick that started the hurt, I think.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'm sure it was the left high kick that started the sequence, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, because that looked to me like it was stifled a bit, so maybe like the knee caught him or something.
Yeah, I can't remember fully because I know it was obviously a very quick fight-ending sequence, etc., etc. But look, like I say, I'm not going to compromise myself, and it's not a case of me saying nice things or sticking up for Kevin because, you know, like I say, I just need you guys to know that Kevin is everything I said he is. He's a competent... I have this thing about if I was going to return to fighting tomorrow, that's my marker. If I was going to fight tomorrow and that referee got assigned to my fight, would I feel comfortable? And if Kevin McDonald was assigned to referee a fight that I was coming back to do, I would feel comfortable. And you know, like I say, with the stoppage, it's that thing about... It's the greatest adage of, you know, damned if you do, damned if you don't. You know, we're never going to know. And I feel for all 3 parties. I feel for the winner of that fight. I feel for the loser in that fight. And I feel for the official in that fight, you know, because, you know, we'll never know. And as I was saying to James off camera, when I watch a sequence or somebody tells me to look at something, as an official, there's one go-to that will stick in my mind. And when I'm watching it, whatever it is, I'm looking for the action or the thing that made the official take the decision he did.
Right.
And a lot of times I'll look at something and I'm like, sorry, can't help you, because I can't see why he did it. In that fight with Kevin, I know exactly why he took the action he did. I get it, but everything else afterwards is kind of hindsight, you know? And I do, my heart goes out to TJ Dillashaw. What an arduous process that was. It was a super fight. He must have went through monumental sacrifice to hit that weight. And like a professional, he hit that weight.
Yeah.
And yes, it was so quick and this, that, and the other. And he got back up after the fight. You know, my heart goes out to him. And it's just that thing. We don't know. Nobody knows because the fight was done, dusted, and called. And we can't go back. And it sounds so matter of fact, you know, but...
Here's something I want to get your opinion on then that kind of came from the aftermath of it. And it was something that I've heard a few people say. And I've even said it myself. And to an extent, I kind of believe it. I don't know why I feel this way, but I kind of do. And I feel like you might have a difference of opinion. Does it change the way you approach refereeing the fight based on the magnitude of the fight?
No.
If you're refereeing 2 18-year-old fighters having their first pro fight compared to 2 world champions fighting in a super fight, does it change the way that you approach it?
I'm sorry, I should have let you finish there.
No, that's right.
Because we've had that discussion before. Yes, based upon the fact of I'm drawing the line between, most of the time it's between a professional and an amateur. I am not going to let a first-time amateur or a rank outside professional endure as long as I'd let seasoned professionals endure.
Yeah.
And by that, what I mean is absorbing punishment in open play, stood up, grounded, wherever it may be. But we're not talking about a collection of episodes within a particular fight. Let's just home in on the beginning of the end, or what the referee will determine as the beginning of the end. You know, when you're presented with a fight-ending sequence, or what you think is about to be that fight-ending sequence, yes, of course, if I'm refereeing, I think we spoke about it before, about the Cage Warriors show in Birmingham. If I'm refereeing 2 amateurs, I'm not going to let them go that far. I am going to take an educated decision on their behalf for their safety. And I was kind of saying to James again off camera, you know, as a referee, this is how finite this is. This is how hypersensitive. Sometimes you're rolling the dice, you know, because I see when a fighter's hurt, but he's still showing me response. You know, they're still showing me that they're trying to claw back. They're trying to get back. Yeah. And like I said, there's so many, you can look at it pragmatically and you could go in and chop it up 1,001 different ways. The action is always the same. As a good, balanced, competent official, if I think or another referee thinks that a fighter shouldn't take any more, that's when I'm acting. Mm-hmm. And I've always said a few times, it's like, you know, excuse me, you don't need a kill shot. It's kind of a good adage. And I know people will say, obviously, the magnitude
of a good kill shot, though.
Yeah, the magnitude of the. But sometimes, look, and like I said, I'm comfortable talking about fights that I've done. And I'll give you two great examples. One very recently was Amanda Nunes and Chris Cyborg. Yeah. And you watch that, you know, Cyborg went down 3 times. But every time, boom, straight back up. And you kind of, like I said, because that fight played out the way it did, you know, that final right hand that came in from Amanda and sealed the deal. Mm-hmm. Another case in point was, if you remember, Yoel Romero and Luke Rockhold.
The shotgun to the face.
Yeah, when obviously Romero put Luke down, and Luke went down hard and heavy, concussively, but then you see him post, I'm running in, but I see him post out to get back up, and that's when I'm thinking, is he going to grab a single? Is he going to recover? Yeah. And I'm letting that half step play out.
Give him the benefit of the doubt.
I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. And then people will say, Francis Ngannou and Curtis Blades. Yep. Again, obviously, when you see me stop that fight, it's the 3rd knockdown. We actually spoke about that.
Yeah, I think
we broke that down pretty concisively. You know, it's the same scenario. You know, like I said, what I want fans and people to know is that you need to take you need to take the emotion out of it when you're watching a fight. And I know that's hard because that's the only time you'll ever understand what an official goes through. We are completely emotionless in that fight. Yeah. We are Mr. or Mrs., you know, impartial. You have to be. Everybody else watching that fight will be or could be watching with a vested interest. Maybe it's financial from a betting perspective. Maybe it's just a case of having a favorite fighter. You train with them, your teammates, whatever it may be. There's an emotion attached somehow. The referees in question, when we're making that call, it's that split-second decision. And you can look left and right. You can have 1,001 replays. You know, you could do it till the cows come home before and after, after the event. But, you know, like I said, I'm not going to compromise myself and I'm not going to compromise other officials. But I can put myself firmly in Kevin's shoes and know why he took the decision that he took. And it's like I said before, I mean, Kevin, you know, he spoke privately. We have to live with that consequence. And people
looking like each other.
Right, he doesn't look like me. Let me just put it there. Dark hair, side parting, that's it. But it's like that. People don't realise, because a lot of people that watch the fight, they're just, you know, and like I said, the social media messages I got alone prove perfect testament to that. There's some horrible fuckers out there, you know. I don't, like I've said before, if it's a fight I'm reffing, you can come at me with anything, question me on anything, come at me with abuse. 99% of the time, I'm just going to ignore you. Sometimes I may highlight you and put it back out, you know. And the kid in question, I'm like, what are you doing? Turn your internet off, kid, you know. I'm not going to come back in
great response.
Yeah, I'm not going to come back in a gunslinging match with him because I'm going to save that for
when it matters.
Yeah, these so-called people that want to approach. I'm kind of getting sidetracked here. These so-called people that want to approach us, and if they want to do that, you know, they can. But I think what I was saying before was after the event, you can have all the expert analysis under the sun. different camera angles. Look at his face. Look at that. Look at this. It's,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like I said,
There has to be some forgiveness for the fact that the referee's present making those decisions in that moment. And I'll be honest, the way that you just explained it makes it seem like a far more specialist profession than a lot of people are considering. Like, you're getting guys that are just coming over from other combat sports. And
can you just say that again?
it's a very, very specialist profession. It's a very, like, for someone to...
I can't reiterate that enough. It really is, guys. It's not just a case of I wake up one day and go, I want to be a fucking MMA referee. Honestly, if you have that dream and that aspiration, all power to you. And we're looking for new people, but it's just not something you can have a go at. Honestly, it's just not.
No, I mean, I've done your refereeing and judging course, and even I would be anxious refereeing amateurs, because I know how much it means to them to be in that moment and to be taking on that challenge, and I know how much responsibilities. I've refereed fights before, a lot of kickboxing matches, which are far easier to follow, but so another question that comes from the TJ Dillashaw-Cejudo fight, which is something that came to mind watching it back. In those moments, are you paying attention to where the shots are landing and how that's affecting the fighter? Because do you go, he's just got hit in the head, his legs are gone, or do you go, he got hit in the temple, which means his equilibrium's gone, or he got hit in the chin, which probably means he's on instincts alone? Because to me, it looked like TJ had taken, like I said, that Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier shot to right at the side of the head. Like Jimmy Warlad said earlier when he was here, his legs, it switches your legs off. But Dillashaw still looked like he was trying to recover and get back into the fight.
He was.
Whereas if he took the shot on the chin cleanly, I would think that now he's probably just working off instinct. Is that a consideration? And how do you kind of make those calls in the moment?
I'm not sure how you could draw the line between the two, because I think what you've just described there tantamounts to the same thing. Exactly that. Whether it's instinctual, whether it's... Because a lot of fighters have survived in fights based on instinct. How many times you heard fighters... I remember me. How many times you had fights, you come out afterwards, what happened?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You have periods, long periods of what happened, because you can't remember.
No. I also remember that there were certain times though where I would get caught with the shot, and I didn't feel like I was concussed. It just felt like it had knocked my equilibrium off, and I felt like I was underwater a little bit. That's how it feels to me. Like I'm kind of scrambling, and my legs aren't properly responding. I still feel conscious. I'm very much aware of what's going on, but in other times when I've been caught with a clean shot and I literally am on instinct because I don't remember any of it.
So let me put it to you this way. Let me draw a line under it, and let me put it to you in pragmatic fashion. I was faced with the same kind of scenario when I, like I said, gave example earlier, was Ngannou and Blades. So let me put it to you black and white. We watched the fight, and Curtis was on Queer Street. He was up, he was down, he's up and down 3 times. Like I said, the third one, maybe it was momentum, etc., etc. I ref the fight another day. I let that play out. And Francis's last shot is a right uppercut that sends Curtis to the mat, face down, unconscious, broken jaw, out for 6 months. What are they going to say about me?
Late stoppage.
What do you want? How many fucking times do you want the guy to go down? What do you want to do before you stop the fight? Then we go back and rewind and say, plays out like I done it. 1, 2, 3, down, stop the fight. Then you're in that land of in between. That's what I'm trying to say. That's how finite this is. People who are watching the fights, and it's difficult sometimes to watch it without, emotion and a personal bias. And it could be subliminal. You may not know. That referee, whether it's me, any other referee, we're just taking that decision. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes we're rolling the dice. We're rolling that dice. And like I said, I prefer to talk about instances that I've done as a referee, because I think obviously we're talking about TJ, et cetera, and that fight. And like I said, you can see the emotion that my heart bleeds. It goes out. And it also goes out for Henry as well, because then people will question it.
Yeah, for sure.
What would have happened? What's this? What's that? Nobody will ever know. So just stop arguing about the eventual outcome, because nobody will ever know. The referee makes a call at that point in time, and then it just comes down to competency. Yes, you're always going to get questionable calls and decisions, but was that person who made that call in a competent position? And in Kevin McDonald's case, yes.
Yeah. Do you think there's any need or responsibility for the referee to tell people his perspective? Because obviously I've heard nothing from Kevin since the weekend, and I would like to have heard his perspective.
See, this is a bugbear of mine, and I've had people in various positions be a little disgruntled because as an official, like I said, there's this belief of, you don't speak or this, that, and the other. Okay, I get it, but like I said, it comes back to the person. If you're talking in an unprofessional way, if you're talking in a way that's going to compromise yourself, and I've had it before with referees in the past. I've saw referees live tweet a fighter, "Don't worry, bro, you got this." What the fuck, right? And here's him. Oh, now I've got something to bang. This is what we're dealing with here. Now, if you ever saw me do that, like I said, I'd hang my head in shame and I'd stop reffing tomorrow. I'm not going to do that. Why? Because I'm clever, I'm switched on, and I'm not that fucking stupid. But this is what spores it. This is why that gives perfect ammunition for the powers that be to say, as an official, you don't talk to the media. And I get that. Because if I had to talk to the media for every decision I'd made, you'd never make it home, Yeah. But I'm on both sides. I'm on both sides. Is that some commissions, they won't let you talk. Some commissions don't mind. I think it all comes down to the person. If you can articulate, if you can be responsive, and you can give a reasoned argument, case, decision as to why you did what you did, is that going to help? I don't know, maybe a small percentage, because when you turn on social media and you see, like I said, some of the messages I got over the weekend, I know that Kevin will have received a deluge of messages too.
Yeah.
It is what it is, man.
So what follows an event like that for the referee? So say Kevin's finished the main event, he walks backstage. Is there a sit down with the other officials? Is there a discussion with, say, someone like Mark Ratner? Is there any? Are they held accountable by the commission anyway? So they have to explain why they made certain calls? Because I don't know what happens after.
Very
events.
often,
Okay.
very often there is a post-fight meeting with officials, and whoever is in charge, whatever, if it's an athletic commission or wherever we may be in the world, the judges and officials and the head of that commission will go into a room afterwards and we'll deliberate and discuss and digest what happened, because we could have had a nice clean night, which is nice, or we could have had something that may warrant a little bit of discussion. There is post-fight discussion, way more often than there isn't. And I think that's needed. And of course, that's not for public consumption. And I agree that it shouldn't be for public consumption.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it's not about pleasing everybody.
Yeah.
That's way more easy to do than informing everybody. You'd bend your mind to hell and back if you thought for 1 second that no matter what explanation you give, you could inform everybody. Because you just can't do it. And like I said, like this podcast, it's obviously when you see officials, and hopefully the people who know me will know me, and the way that I'm articulating and explaining it in this podcast is in a professional way, Like I said, it's about that official. If you came on and you compromised your position by talking about fights that you could have been doing in the future, I mean, I don't even have to explain that, do I?
No.
And the fact that if I had a referee, and the fact that why I'm telling you to take your gloves out your pocket, leave your black shirt in your bag and go home. Because if I have to explain to you why it's a bad idea that you openly, communicate on social media with a fight you're about to do, there's no point in doing what we're doing, is there?
Yeah.
And it's not the case for myself and the other referees. It's a battle we're going to have, and I would love to be able to, hopefully we can do it more, and talk about decisions, but I don't know. It's, like I said, pleasing everyone, informing everyone. It's a fine line, and I don't know.
So what's it like? So when you're traveling, you're obviously refereeing high-profile fights now, so a lot of people are recognizing you almost as much as they would, these high-profile UFC fighters. What's it like? So you've just been traveling the Middle East, right? How is it meeting people out there, and what's your general interactions with fans? They got a lot of questions for you and that kind of thing.
Yeah, because I'm still of the belief, like when you see bad, and I'm still of the firm belief that most, like I said, there's some amazing fans in this sport. Because look, like I said, they are what make, because they pay everybody's wages. Let's not beat around the bush there.
Yeah.
No fans, no lifeblood. That's the be all and end all, And by the vast majority, I'm of the firm belief that the most of them are good people, great guys, great girls. I've met some wonderful people, special people, in this sport. It's the disgruntled ones. I can tell you now, almost categorically, they've never been to an event in their life. They've never bought a ticket in their life.
No.
They'll sit at home, in the bedroom, betting, gambling, on social media. They're not fans.
No.
They're not fans, because most of the fans I've met in all my years have been amazing people, because they are the lifeblood of this, and any sport, same as football, rugby, whatever. These are the hardworking people that go to work Monday to Friday and then part with their cash for an entertainment value of their choice.
Yeah.
And that's what people lose sight of as well.
Yeah.
And that's what I get a bit emotionally involved when people talk to me about, you can't explain that to these people. Yes, you can, and yes, you should. But it's about how you do it,
Yeah.
It's the competency and the almost compassion of the official in question.
So how when someone comes up to you with a question like, is it real? How do you keep calm in those scenarios?
Yeah, so it depends if I've had coffee or not. If it's early in the morning, it's 2019, and we still have people approach me who are like, and they're like, "Oh, you referee UFC?" Yeah. I've watched it. Like, I've watched loads of fights, but is it for real? And I'm like, well, you haven't fucking watched loads of fights, have you? Have you saw how they ended? It's real, my friend. It's real. We still get those questions.
I can't even begin to imagine. I mean, I've had those conversations with people before, but obviously most of the people that are talking to me know me from my fights, and a lot of the people that are tuning in now don't know me as a fighter. A lot of people don't remember me as a fighter now, which is quite strange, because the McGregor era came in and brought loads and loads of fans. So, like, I remember having those conversations back in the day, but I've not had them for a while. The whole, is it real and all that. It doesn't help with Brock Lesnar bouncing back and forth between WWE and the UFC. But
that's generally the question.
Yeah,
is that the people that even in 2019 someone will ask, is it real? But he was pretty adamant on the fact there was he's been watching it for years.
Yeah, and
he's a hardcore fan. And why did you ask me that? I'm like, I'm finding your line of question a little bit dubious at this point, but it's nothing compared to what it was back in the day. With we had the whole human cockfighting thing, and we went up that peak and then down that trough and up again. But
I tend to find myself grouped into the same conversations on Twitter as you, or you'll be arguing with someone, then someone will copy me and they'll go, hey, Mark's getting into it with someone again.
See, that's the thing, right? People say that you are. Do I argue about that on Twitter?
Not a lot. Not as much as you used to. I feel like you used to argue people more.
I've learnt more.
Yeah.
I think you're right there. I think I've learnt more that, like I said, I could not distinguish the difference between pleasing people and informing people.
Yeah.
And I think maybe, people can't make that distinction either.
No.
Because it's not about pleasing people. That you will never do. And also, I think the fact of look, it's what I say when I'm doing the referee and judge seminars,
which are excellent, by the way. If ever you get a chance to go to one of them, I mean, it gave me a different perspective of mixed martial arts, and I'd been immersed in the sport for a long time, so it's definitely worth getting.
It's
involved.
information gathering,
Even just like for people in the media, anybody covering the fights, they should be doing these courses so they know what they're watching.
And that's what goes back to, you're in the group of people that I'm not trying to please. You're in the group of people that I'm trying to inform.
Yes.
Because you're in a position of huge influence. You're broadcasting to millions of people around the world, and that will hinge on what Dan Hardy says. Because Dan Hardy was a former fighter. Dan Hardy was, well, maybe not former ever, but at the moment, Dan Hardy's on the shelf. Title challenger, title contender. Been fighting for a long time at the elite level. So they're going to hang on what you say.
Yeah, but you've been in more title fights than I have at this
Yeah,
point.
but it doesn't matter, mate. I haven't got a voice.
Of course you have.
No, I mean
You have now. Well, this is the first episode.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing this monthly,
and
so you have a voice now.
hopefully, you know, I'm appealing to the powers that be that they could see this as what, you know, for the value of what it is. I'm not here to dissect and throw shade at other officials. I want to target the people who need to be informed, not the people who need to be pleased.
So what about the co-main event then? That seemed like a good opportunity for you to give us your thoughts on how that potentially could have been avoided, whether that's making sure that Greg Hardy knows what the rules are, whether that's, you know what I mean?
Didn't see the fight.
Did you not?
Heard about it. It's an illegal knee.
Yeah, it was an illegal knee.
Did not see the fight.
The thing that didn't help is that he was exhausted by the time it happened. I'll show you afterwards. I'll be interested.
He lost by disqualification.
It was disqualification, yeah. But I mean, he gave it everything he got in the first round, and Crowder just hung in there tough. And then when the second round started, Crowder could see that he was tired and started chatting all kinds of shit.
Where was the fight again?
It was the co-main event on the
No.
the
Where?
Dillashaw-Cejudo fight, Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, so it was New York, yeah. So, because obviously there's still the imbalance of old rules, new rules.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. Like I said, I didn't see the fight.
Yeah.
And sometimes a lot of the states have, and I guess we'll come on to that with the question about the towels and stuff.
Yeah.
There's still an imbalance out there.
Right.
We have a unified set of rules as laid down by the ABC. Not every state in America has either adopted those. Some of them are in a halfway measure now. So, and then, like I said, generally as a person, and hopefully that further stipulates adds as a stipulation and shows that as a professional, I can only really give opinion on what I saw. And I did not see, I heard quite a bit about it, but I did not see the ending sequence.
Okay. I'll show you afterwards, and we'll put it on the next pod. I'm just interested to know what your thoughts are, because I think one thing that hurt Greg Hardy is that he was really tired. So it almost looked like he might have done it intentionally, which I don't necessarily think that was the case. I personally feel like he didn't fully understand what was legal and what was not, because it was like he waited for Crowder to come up from both knees to one knee to create space and knee him in the face. But yeah, it was a weird one, but we'll watch it. He's had 6 pro fights.
So Hardy was on.
Hardy was
Crowder
standing.
was on one
Crowder
knee.
was on 2
and again,
knees.
it doesn't. Let me just clarify that. So that just so you people know the rules. The old rule, new rule, with regards to a downed opponent was both feet on the canvas, one hand down. You're downed. Now it's both feet, 2 hands down, weight bearing, you're down. In this instance, you said he had a knee down.
He had a knee down.
By any definition of the rule, as soon as you have anything other than the soles of your feet or your hand on that canvas, you're down.
Yeah.
So whether it was old rule, new rule, it's indifferent, because your butt, your elbow, your leg, your knee, when that's touching the mat, you are classified as down in old money and new money.
Yeah. So it's across the board. That was
correct.
Knee. Yeah. I wondered whether it was the education of the fighter, knowing that he'd come over from a different sport. He just kind of started mixed martial arts.
He was an NFL guy, right?
Yeah, I think he played for the Dallas Cowboys, but I think he's had 6 pro fights. So like,
I've heard quite a bit about him, and obviously I know he came through the Dana White Contender Series.
Yeah. I mean, he
knocking
rose,
people out.
That's it. He rose very quickly because he's a good athlete, and most people just couldn't deal with his pace and his power. And that's all it looked like. What happened with Crowder? Crowder weathered the early storm. He threw a bunch of stuff at Greg Hardy and kind of tied him out. And then second round started coming on strong, but Greg Hardy was being pressured, and there was an opportunity, and it looked like he considered it for a second, then he threw. But the consideration was, I'm tired. This is a good way out of the fight, or he's on 2 knees. Do I have to wait until he's on 1 knee? I don't know. It's a weird one. Let's go on to the last question I want to ask you before we wrap this up, because this is a boxing thing. My good friend Wad sent me this over. It's a video of Mickey Van refereeing a boxing match.
Yeah.
And this is a rule that I'm still not exactly sure about, because this changes from one place to another as well, as far as I know, and from promotion to promotion. The video is of Mickey Van refereeing 2 boxers. I think it's the second round. One boxer's taking a load of shots. His corner team throw the towel in, and Mickey Van picks the towel up and throws it out, and the fight continues on for a couple more rounds. What's the situation in MMA, generally speaking, and how does that differ around the world?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously what you're alluding to, and if you remember when I do the seminars, I give the example of, in boxing, you will see there's a lot of examples where a towel comes in, referee picks it up, throws it back out. Don't forget, the referee is the sole arbiter in a contest. The referee is the person who decides whether the fight continues or stops. In some states, and sometimes it's slightly different, the power of attorney, if you like, the power of the jurisdiction could go to the doctor. But generally, he's still consulting with the referee.
Right. So he's advising the referee.
If he's brought in between, if he's brought in between rounds or the result of a foul, and we say stop, and we bring the doctor in. Obviously, with a towel coming in, it's not a foul. It used to be a foul because it was attributed to different states, and you would see throwing in the towel during competition. It was under the ABC. If you go and look at the rules, it's not there as a foul because it shouldn't be. It's ridiculous. If a corner wants to retire their fighter as a TKO because they may know something you don't, they should always have that option available to them. In some states, for instance, Nevada, they're still not saying a corner can't stop the towel, but they may want you to go about it in a different way.
Right.
Because of a towel. You know what it came from with a towel?
No.
Back in the day with boxing, I can't remember the actual fight, but historically, if my memory serves me correctly, it was more of a symbolic thing. It happened by accident in a fight. I can't remember the fighters, but the guy was getting bested. He was getting beat. And then when the guy stopped the fight, he threw the towel in. As in, it was like a signify of, almost like a white flag. But also the towel coming in. It used to be the sponge. Used to be throw the sponge in. And it was a way of signifying, yes, Dan Hardy, look at your face. Because what it
wet
was...
sponge, so it
travels further. Like soak the vicar. It was like, throw the sponge in because it's a way of signifying. And you think about this, it's perfectly clear. The corner's thrown in saying, that's it, clean the fighter. When you guys getting bested, the sponge would come in.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like clean the fighter, stop.
Stitch that, as Nick Peter'd say.
What does he say?
Stitch that.
Okay.
Chuck him a towel, stitch that.
Yeah. So, yes. So with the towel coming in, because A, nobody's undermining the referee, and B, the referee's not always in full faculty of who threw the towel. Somebody could run past the ring, throw the towel in, it's over. And once the referee stops the fight, no matter what, you're not restarting.
Yeah.
You can't restart. So in Nevada, for instance, they may have a different procedure, or other states will say, if the corner wants to stop the fight, this is obviously during a round, because in the rest period, if a corner wants to retire their fighter, and I wrote a pertinent article for that, the IMAF, because I'm fully behind that. I've said in MMA, it's been a problem where corners, you're watching the same thing I'm watching. Your fighter's now on the end of a one-sided beating. Is not saying he's not responsive, but it moves away from being competitive. You're not competing or defending.
Yeah.
Now you're surviving.
Yeah.
You're just waiting. Defending means that at any moment I can mount an offense to turn this around. Survival means you're absorbing everything that comes in the hope that something happens.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. So
kind of like CB Dalloway was in that fight when he was just kind of curled up, but he wouldn't tap out.
Oh, in Russia, yeah. That's the same thing, That's like a survival thing. But yeah, going back with a towel, like I said, it's quite. I can't remember the fight, and I certainly can't remember the historical boxers' names. But that's what happened. It was almost a metaphorical thing by accident. The towel came in as if to throwing the what. That's it. It's over.
Makes
and then the sponge, like I said, it was quite a thingy story, and it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Here you go, ref. Clean them up. It's over.
Yeah.
That's where it came from. But coming back to MMA. Yes, it's not a foul. It's removed as a foul. Some states may want you to go about it in a different fashion.
Right.
That you or the corner will notify a commission rep. He jumps up on the apron and then signals to the ref.
Yeah. When emotion's involved, though, it's difficult to go through that sequence of
And it could be
my
quite
fighter's taking too much. Where's you know what I mean?
It could be quite convoluted because if I'm reffing and I'm like, I'm in that tunnel vision, I don't want to see something in my peripheral vision distracting me because
especially if he's taking a beating.
Exactly, I don't know what that is. Is it a fan? Is it what's he doing? You know,
maybe get one of those electric shock things so he can just give you a little zap.
Like a collar if he goes out of bounds. Yeah.
Someone wants to fight.
But just to be clear, yes, throwing in the towel is removed as a foul, as well it should, because a corner should absolutely and categorically be able to withdraw their fighter at any which point they see fit. Because he could be hiding an injury or something that you know nothing about.
Yeah.
I've had 2 instances, and one in the past was a fight. I think I talked to you about it before. It was in Cage Warriors in Ireland. Che Mills, and I'm pretty sure it was Carl Pendred.
Right.
Che was having a difficult time. He was on the end of a bit of a beating in the first round. Carl took him down, smothered him, was beating him up. But Che was still in the fight, so I'm letting the fight continue. In between rounds, Paul Sutherland beckons me over and he tells me, Mark, Che's carrying a shoulder injury, so if he gets taken down again, he's a negative position, I'm going to stop the fight. Mustard. Fantastic. What more could I ask?
Yeah.
Experienced, good good communication between the corner and me. So he's giving me the heads up. So when the towel and what happened in the second round, fight started, Carl took him down, disadvantage position, towel come in, I stopped the fight. It was quite funny actually, because I think when I stopped the fight, it's almost like Carl looked at me like going, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
I was like, "No, the fight's over." But and even and again that's a roll of the dice you'll take, because in boxing it's that jurisdiction lies with the referee.
Yes.
And that's why you'll see there's a lot of examples online. I can't remember an example in MMA where a referee's done the same.
No, I can't. So what would you do in the UFC though? So say you don't have the luxury of between rounds. Say you don't go back after the first round and the cornerman says, "Hey, if rough position this next round, let's call it." Say if it all happens in a round. If they get caught with a clean shot in the first 2 minutes and then the next 2 minutes they're taking big shots, what can the corner team do in the UFC to be able to communicate to the referee that they want the fight ending before the end of the round?
They can still throw a towel.
They can.
I'm not going to penalise. Yeah, because like I said...
And does that change from one state to another, though?
It could do. Like I say, in Nevada, they don't want towels coming in.
Right.
They will say signify to the... Because you'll see there's left and right, there's always... And Nevada's obviously at the forefront. They have commission representatives, inspectors, who are sat there. I want the fight stopped, want the fight stopped.
Yeah.
And they'll say, don't throw the towel. It's their job to get up on the apron and signify to the referee that they want the fight stopped.
Yeah. We need a button. We need a button and a light on the top of their corner, like you get at ice hockey.
Yeah.
When a goal's scored, they can turn the light on.
But that's...
Or even better, a button that they can press and they're in a chair that just swivels away and they're not looking at the fight anymore. They're like, no.
You mean
bam,
like The Voice?
That's it. I don't know the show.
They turn their back to that. But how am I going to see that? But that's the difficulty.
We have spotlights on them, Mark. You're not thinking the theatrics of this.
On a practical sense, as a referee, how difficult that would be to administer. Because I'm like, what, eh? And if I stop that fight stopped. I can't, because if you're in the middle of a fight ending sequence, which is where this obviously applies to, a towel's not coming in open play. Excuse me, sorry. A towel may come in when a guy or a girl is absorbing punishment. And again, if the corner wants that stopped, to be able to withdraw their fighter, they should. People are getting mixed up between that and... in between rounds. Happens a lot. Corners are good corners, and a lot of examples where they'll retire their fighter. I think there was, if you remember,
Dick Rufus is the most recent one with Anthony Pettis, when he pulled him out in the Tony Ferguson fight.
Okay.
He stopped the fight. He didn't want him to continue.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, it was a good call. I have no problem with corners stopping fights.
Corners are allowed and should be allowed to stop them. But like I said, there's grey area there.
Yeah.
Because throwing in the towel, first and foremost, it is not a foul. Under unified rules, it's not a foul. You are within your right and liberty to stop a fight as a corner at any point you choose. But some states, like I said, will not allow it. They will contest it and say, if you want the fight stopped, this is what you do.
Yeah.
Other referees, especially in boxing, hey, don't undermine me. I'm the man in charge and I can see when the fight's over.
Yeah.
And that's where you'll see the towels come in, picked up and thrown back out.
It's funny you mention, I mean, in boxing it's easier because obviously they're in a ring, you can just get the towel over the ropes. It's probably easier to get to and to communicate with the referee because they're more in your line of sight because they're on the corner next to the ropes, whereas in an octagon or a cage, the fence obscures
you got 8 sides
outside.
You got 4 sides to a ring.
And how many times do you have to point the fighter to the right corner because of the disorientation after the round? They don't even know which. So it's very difficult for you to tell where the corner is sometimes, I'm sure, when the fight's in full speed.
And they're quite low.
Yeah.
Obviously,
they are right at the bottom. Yeah.
With boxing, you've got your outside apron, but you can lean in. A second or a corner can lean in and get your attention. With MMA, you can't do that because you'll have the cage, the runway, and then you're sat behind that.
Yeah.
On some regional promotions, you're a little bit closer. But
I wonder if we need something more, a little bit more weighty. Like they get the flags in the NFL, where they can throw the flags on the field. Were you at the event? It was at the Octagon Centre in Sheffield. It was a Cage Warriors event. And there was one fighter taking a hell of a beating. and I'm standing on the other side of the cage watching it go down. The referee's facing in my direction, and his corner team on the opposite side are having such a hard time throwing the towel. It's going up the fence, it's hitting the top of the cage, and then coming back down onto him. They had sort of 3 or 4 goes before someone on the other side was waving the towel at the referee. Like, because it's so difficult. It would be so difficult to get a towel into the
Don't tell me who the ref was.
I can't even imagine.
I don't want to know.
I can't even imagine.
But what I will tell you,
Go on then.
as an example of a fight becoming so one-sided, the guy taking such a beating that the winning corner threw the towel in to get it stopped.
I've never seen that.
Move on.
Hey?
Move on.
Move on.
Let's
Okay.
move on.
We won't touch on that then. Well, is there anything else you want to... one more question for you then. How long we're going? One more question for you. Quick fire answer. 2019 is the first show that we're doing. If you could see something changed before the end of the year in mixed martial arts rules, what would it be?
Oh, hell. Down to 12-6 elbow.
Yeah? Just take that out.
Take it out.
But based on what rule? Based on it not being as effective as people think? Based on the confusion around that elbow?
All of the above.
Right, okay. That's difficult for
Me and you are standing, and I'll give you 2 choices. I'll say, right, Dan Hardy, I'm going to switch step, spinning back elbow, John Jones style, to your face.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to mount you and bring a 12-6. On a damage inflicted point of view, and you had to choose one, as in least damaging, which one would you pick?
Or the downward. Yeah.
When you're on your back.
For
Yeah.
sure. It's an awkward shot to throw.
Yeah, very awkward.
Yeah.
And you'd compromise yourself because people know with jiu-jitsu, if I do this and come down, obviously it's hard when you're under fire, but if I do this, come down, aim a weight forward, I'm far easier to bridge and roll and re-roll. And also on that, I can't post on that side.
Yeah.
But
So if that was the case, John Jones would be unbeaten, wouldn't he?
he would be
His only
unbeaten,
loss was
yeah.
that.
He would be unbeaten.
That's a good example as well for that shot being a ridiculous foul, really.
What's
the
that,
downward
the
elbow. That
bridge
example
and
of
re-roll.
John Jones in
Oh, yeah,
in
Matt
Man.
Hamill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was actually, just before we wrap this, I'm not sure whether you saw ONE FC at the weekend with there was Thai boxing rules in MMA gloves. I'm not sure what your opinions on that are. I don't mind it too much, to be honest. I mean, it was an excellent contest. The difference being under Muay Thai rules, you can throw down with elbows.
Yeah.
And the fighter was John Haggerty. He's a British fighter. I think he's from Sheffield, actually. Great fighter, really, really clean. Stepped in, standing downward elbow, landed right.
Jumping elbow.
Oh, it was really nice, really nice.
But top of the head.
Kind of caught him on the side of the temple there.
Cut him or knocked him out?
No, knocked him down. And then, I mean, the fight continued on, but it was a great shot.
I don't know what maybe they have, if the ONE FC kickboxing rules, probably.
It's just Muay Thai rules with
oh,
MMA
okay.
gloves.
So they allow 12-6s and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
there's no takedowns and stuff. So.
I think that, you know, I had a very controversial moment last year. If you remember Eddie Alvarez, Dustin Poirier.
Yes.
And people, again, it's a fight that I refereed, so I'm comfortable talking. You know, people think that because Eddie was in a mounted position, Dustin was sat against the fence, and people think that I intervened and stood him up just for that. It wasn't. It was a collection of 3 fouls when Eddie was holding the fence, pulling the air, then the 12-6.
Right. Okay.
That's why I reset that position and negated. But either or, that's well storied.
That's another situation though where that could have done with an explanation immediately after the fight, right? Oh, I hear sirens, Mark. They've found you. They're coming for you.
I'm of either that or I'm breaking the rules. They're coming after me. Yeah, I'm in because I think it's just a silly rule that, you know, and like I said, this is how ridiculous it is. I can't even 12-6 to the body.
No.
And it's you know, as a referee, if I saw it, we'd have to call it or potentially take an advantageous position away. How many fights have you ever saw stop with an elbow to the body?
Not many.
Not one.
Not many.
I can't recall one.
I started a finish against Daniel Weichel. I was elbowing him in the head and he was covering. And Jimmy
Who
Waller
refereed that?
You did, didn't you?
Yeah, I remember.
Was it 14 of my fights you've refereed?
Is that when Jimmy's going, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Yeah. Went back to my corner after the first round. What are you doing? Because it was the Ultimate Challenge, was that show?
No,
Doncaster?
no, you did not fight an Ultimate Challenge.
No, I didn't. That's the
Ultimate Force.
Ultimate Force.
Ultimate
that's
Challenge is Dave down in
They
Dave
get
O'Donnell.
back, cage fighting.
Yeah, Ultimate Challenge down in London. Ultimate Force.
Ultimate Force, that was it, up in Doncaster. But they've got that weird kind of angled pad all the way around the bottom of the fence.
Toblerones.
And I could not get my foot up against the fence to stop his takedown. He just kept pulling my ankles out. The whole of the first round, I end up getting taken down, the whole of it, defending my neck.
That was your send-off to the UFC, that fight, right?
That was the most ridiculous gamble I've taken in my career, really. I didn't need to take that fight. I'd already had the contract sent through to me. Joe Silva called me up and he said, if you lose this fight, you rip the contract up. And I remember I came out to Don't Stop by Fleetwood Mac because I needed to think, I'd get this fight out of the way and then we're all good. But I'd committed to the fight already. I wasn't going to pull out. And I thought to myself, if I can't beat Daniel Weichel, then I don't deserve to be in the UFC anyway.
That's gambling, folks.
Right. And now look at what he's done. Daniel Weichel is looking great now. He's
he's a Bellator, right?
Yeah, he looks very good.
Seasoned guy.
Definitely.
Been around
15,
forever.
I think he was 15-4.
Didn't really have a good time in England.
No, not really.
Paul Daly viciously knocked him out.
He was never a welterweight though, was he?
He definitely is a lightweight, career lightweight.
Yeah.
But Paul Daly, I refereed that fight, and that was amazing timing. A lot of people there, oh, well, he's the damn fighter. Yeah, he was when the knee connected, but at the time of the knee, it was perfectly timed by Paul.
Yeah.
People won't see it. Paul Daly, obviously everybody knows, he fought Daniel Weichel on a show called FX3. Paul was waiting for Daniel shooting in. Daniel shot in. At the same time, Paul threw a knee, flush on the chin, out cold. And then, was that after you? Or was that before you?
What do you mean?
When he fought, did he fight you after Paul Daly?
Yes, he fought me afterwards.
Yeah, and then he fought Dan, and you know, you and Paul were teammates almost, as it were.
We were.
Yeah, and then you stopped him.
I had Jimmy in the corner, and I was hitting him from half guard with elbows to the head, and he was covering. And Jimmy shouted, "Hit to the body!" So I just pulled back, and he obviously still thought I was aiming for the head, and I smashed him one time in the ribs, and both of his arms went down. Then I went straight back up to the head and got the TKO. Yeah, that was a weird fight. That was.
I remember it distinctly.
Yeah.
I remember
most of my fights distinctly, don't you? We get
for
my
various
arms twisted
reasons
off and stuff. Yeah. I always appreciate you letting my fights go a little bit. You knew that I was stubborn and willing to wriggle out of some stuff, so.
You want to stay in that moment. You know, maybe we'll talk about that next time, because I think we spoke about that before with regards, you know, this whole thing about, and maybe I'll just finish on that. Hopefully people who are watching this, you'll get the point of what this podcast was, what we thought about doing. You know, that we can professionally, objectively and realistically break down rules and decisions to aim for the people who need to be informed, not the people who need to be pleased.
Yeah.
The gamblers and the abusers out there that give me and all the other referees shit, you're not looking for information. You're just looking for self, you know,
reactions. Just looking for reactions.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
But for the informed people out there, then hopefully by the time this goes out and we get all out there and tell them what we're doing, then hit us up with some
questions,
suggestions, and
send us
questions.
And any clips that you see on any other fights as well, any other events and stuff that there was something that you feel needs explaining, tag us in the video, send it over to us at Dan Hardy MMA, at Marc Goddard with a C, right? Mark with a C. Marc Goddard UK?
Marc Goddard _UK.
Marc Goddard _UK. Okay. So, tweet at us, let us know, and then we'll try and get to some of these videos.
We could do fan breakdowns.
We absolutely could.
And for the abusers out there, I'll make a deal with you. We'll do a fan breakdown if it's you and me that does it. Guess what part you're playing?
You've been quite mellow today, actually. The reason this podcast is called Listen is because when you start getting a bit irate.
Have I said it once?
No, you haven't. You've said "like I said" a lot today.
Like I said.
Yeah. Which is your...
Maybe subliminally you've shied me off. Listen.
Maybe.
You won't, Matt, because I'll say it's going to come out.
When I first started doing commentary, I realised I say too much. And the more time I spend around people in the Midlands, like yourself and, you know, my friends and my family, my accent gets stronger. I drop into every other sentence.
Do you actually? Here's a question for my education. You speak about officials having a get together after fights. Do you guys, production wise, like
yes,
to
we
say?
do. Yeah.
So they may say, "Hey Dan, you need to tone down and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
said
absolutely.
this or you said that. Well,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah, I always email the UFC and ask for feedback, and they tend to give me a couple of pointers here and there. And then myself and John stand with the production crew afterwards, and we have a good probably hour talking through the event. And
John Anik.
Say that again.
John Anik.
Yeah, John Anik, John
John's
Goddard.
a pro. He's a professional.
Yeah, they're all good. I mean, to be
sorry,
honest.
and John. Sorry, John. I automatically thought John Anik. Sorry, John.
Yeah, no, John Goodman. I mean, John's a real perfectionist.
He's also a pro.
Yeah, he's a real perfectionist. So, and he was doing this way before there was any way of making money in it as well, which shows you he's in it for the right reasons.
Yeah, Cage Warriors.
Yeah, commentating for £100 here and there.
He earned his stripes, and
he did.
Came up the right way.
Yeah, right. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.